Jonatha Giddens is joining us on today's episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. She is a deep sea ecologist. She is a National Geographic explorer, and she is here to talk about her journey in becoming what she is today, an amazing ecologist and just somebody who uses technology for marine exploration. I'm looking forward to having this show. So let's start the Beyond Jaws podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. I'm your co-host, Angelo, and here with my other co-host, or my co-host, not my other co-host. There's only one co-host, Dave. Dr. David Ebert. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Andrew. Yeah, I wish there was two of me sometimes. I got so much things going on.
We all everybody does. We can't get enough of you.
No, it's like so. Yeah. Well, I'm here looking forward to talking to Jonatha today. I've known her for several years now. We've collaborated on probably 5 or 6 publications now on deep sea sharks. And as you mentioned in the opening, her background is more in deep sea ecology and reef ecology. And we kind of got connected several years ago because she was seeing these unusual sharks and wanted to know what they were. And sort of one thing led to another. And it's been kind of a nice collaboration between us. And I thought, hey, we need to have her on the show. She has a fascinating career trajectory. She lives out in the Hawaiian Islands, beautiful area, at least my experience out there. And I thought it'd just be fast. She has a fascinating story. I thought it'd be really good for everyone to hear her story and how she wound up doing sharks.
It definitely was. I hadn't had any contact with her before this podcast, and again, you bring in always the great people that you do and throughout the years, and it was really interesting to see her experience and her journey, talking about being very introduced to water very early at family reunions, none like of other places, right? Like really cool areas and good experiences around water, and then going into deep sea exploration using technology. I think it's just phenomenal, especially in today's 2025 with the way technology is used on ocean exploration. So it's kind of cool to get that thought process. So without further ado, here is the interview with Dr. Jonatha Giddens I'm gonna do that again. And here is the interview with Jonatha Giddens talking about her career in deep sea exploration and as a National Geographic explorer. Enjoy, and we will talk to you after. Hey, Jonatha, welcome to the Beyond Jaws podcast. Are you ready to talk about the deep sea?
I am ready. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You bet. You bet.
Well, welcome to another episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast, where we have an absolutely awesome guest today, Dr. Jonatha Giddens. Jonatha has one of those positions that most of us early in our career sort of aim for, and that is she works with the National Geographic. She is a National Geographic explorer and ocean ecologist, and with focus on documenting and characterizing deep sea biodiversity, particularly sharks. Why else? What else is there to study out there? In her role as a science lead for the National Geographic Exploration Technology Lab's Deep Sea Camera Program, Jonatha works at the intersection of marine science and technology to help advance exploration and research into the largest yet least explored ecosystem on Earth, and that's the deep sea. Through the lab's flagship technology access and training program, the Deep Sea Collaboration Opportunity, Jonatha collaborates with and helps build capacity among a global network of National Geographic explorers, grantees, working to harness the transformative potential of marine technology to build our knowledge of global marine biodiversity and to inspire and inform marine conservation action. Before joining Nat Geo, Jonatha worked with several federal and state agencies, with NGOs, and with research organizations conducting coral reef fish ecology studies in Hawaii, another great location to probably work in, and also in remote protected areas across the Pacific. As a scientist by training and an artist at heart, Jonatha blends artistic practice with scientific research to illustrate our interconnectedness with the ocean, from the shallow reefs to the deep sea. Jonatha grew up in the foothills of the Catskill Mountains in western Massachusetts and then moved to the nearest coastal spot she could as a teenager. She then later sailed to Hawaii on a tall ship in her early 20s, and the islands have been her home ever since. She has over 25 research publications and even 4 or 5 with me, which is kind of exciting. And she's received numerous grants and awards. She's a frequent presenter at conferences, a public speaker, and she's featured in various media platforms. As I mentioned, she's her current position as a science lead for the Deep Sea Camera Program for National Geographic. Her schooling is she did a bachelor's degree in marine science and in anthropology at the University of Hawai at Hilo. She also has a master's of science in tropical conservation biology geology and environmental science, also from the University of Hawaii at Hilo. And her PhD is in zoology, specializing in ecology, evolution, and conservation biology at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, where she also held the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship. And with that, Jonatha, welcome to the show.
Wow.
Thank you
That's
so
a lot
much.
of stuff.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
That's a very nice introduction.
I had to
Thank
catch
you.
my breath there. That's a lot you've done. First, I got to ask you what we always ask all of our guests when they come in. There's, how did you get into marine science and sharks, particularly, especially not growing up near the ocean?
Well, I've always loved the ocean. I think one of my first memories as being a young child is when we did get to go to the ocean. It was like 2.5 hours inland. It felt like forever for me. But luckily, my family, it was important with my aunts and uncles and grandparents. We would have family reunions always by a body of water, most often the ocean. So that was my introduction to the ocean growing up. And I remember jumping into the water and just swimming as far out to sea as I could and kind of pretending that I was in the middle of the ocean and just leaving land. And I remember I can hear my mom's voice still on the shore calling me back to land. And so I think even from a young age, we all knew, my parents, my family, myself knew that I was very connected to the ocean. But I didn't really figure out how I would meet that drive, in my career. And so it has been a very winding journey to get to where I am now, living on the islands and working with ocean explorers all over the world. So it's been quite a journey. I've had a lot of inspiring people in my life as sort of North Stars to kind of show the way a little bit and find my way to this where I am.
So when you're growing up in Massachusetts and you're going out down to the ocean, did you ever, at that time, at an early age, did you ever imagine, like, was Hawaii somewhere on your radar, or was it just more you wanted to be at the ocean?
It was the ocean. Hawaii was not on my radar at all. It was kind of the first things first is like get to the coast, get to the nearest coast as I could, and learn to dive. So that's what I did. So after high school, I hadn't found a college that I felt comfortable with. I was like, let me take some time and figure this out before I go somewhere and just go down this, without thinking about it. So
Right.
I knew I wanted to be in the water. So I learned to dive. I became kind of an apprentice dive master in that dive center, the Cape Ann Divers in Gloucester, Massachusetts, where the Perfect Storm
Right.
movie took place. You can imagine that. So yeah, it was cold, Gulf of Maine, cold waters. We were diving every month of the year except for January, but February we were out there shoveling snow off the deck of the boat and going out and diving in wetsuits, or for me anyways, in wetsuits. But just
It's cold water. It deserves a wetsuit.
Yeah. But I mean, I think most people had actually dry suits, and I just made it work with a wetsuit.
Yeah.
But,
What was, I gotta ask you, was the water temperature just for?
Oh, it was in the 40s, something
Okay.
like that. Yeah.
Just had to ask.
And you could barely see 5 feet in front of your face. And I just thought that was great. I just wanted to be underwater. And so I guess it's a good thing I didn't have Hawaii on my mind, because as soon we used to do these trips down to Key Largo, Florida. So as part of my advanced diver training with the dive center, we went and dove in Key Largo on those wrecks. And so I have nice memory of that first memory diving into the warm water, the clear water, the tropics. And so it's hard to go back to cold water after. I don't know if I could dive in cold water after that, but actually it was on that on that dive boat I remember sitting on the dive boat this is how I got to Hawaii, basically. So I was teenager, early 20s, I guess, sitting on this dive boat as a deckhand. I was working on my captain's license, and so getting the days at sea and such, and I was sitting on the dive boat waiting for the divers to come up, and I saw a tall ship going by in the waters of Gloucester, Massachusetts. And I just thought it was cute. I'm like, this is, what was it? It wasn't the 2000, wasn't quite the, yes, no, it was in this, it was the 2000s then, yes.
Okay.
I was like, who is sailing on a tall ship? That's like 18th century stuff. Like who's on this boat? And then so Dave Stillman, my dive instructor, the owner of the dive shop, he said, he knew I was kind of, loved the ocean and was in a kind of middle kind of searching point of my career. And he had the idea. He said, there's this semester at sea program called Sea Education Association out of Woods Hole, where they take students such as yourself, where the students have the opportunity to sail on a semester and get college credit and sail on the ocean. And I thought, I'd like to do that. So that I applied and I got in, and it was the opportunities. You could either go in the Caribbean or you could go on the ship in the Pacific. And I remember asking a colleague at the dive shop, what do you think I should do? And he said, the Caribbean's a lot more accessible to us on the East Coast. Like, who knows how else you would get to the Pacific and Hawaii. Like, I would go for that. So what happened was I did that semester. That was an amazing program for anybody who's looking for that experience. We sailed from Mexico down to the equator to Hawaii over 6 weeks. And after being 6 weeks at sea, we arrived in Hilo Harbor, and that's where I fell in love with Hawaii. And that's where I discovered that they have a university there in Hilo. So somebody, an alum from the program, from Sea Education Association, heard that the ship was coming in, came down to the harbor to meet us. And he was standing up on the pier waiting for the ship to come in. He introduced himself. He said, "Hey, I'm an alum. I'm here at UH Hilo now, and I just wanted to say hi." And I was like, "There's a university here?" And he said, "Yeah, it's a great program." And so that was it. I finished. I kind of stayed on I stayed on the ship for a little bit. I did a little bit of traveling. I kind of finished up some stuff, and then within the next year, I had applied and gotten into Hilo, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah. I've never heard a story like that, where it's like, you're on a dive boat, you look up, there's a tall ship, you're like, how do I get on one of those? Yeah. Oh, there's this great semester at sea program. They're like, and you're so right, because like if you're on the East Coast, like I live in Ontario, Canada, and like the Caribbean is way more accessible to get to and cheaper to get to, and so it's easier to make those trips and dives, which is still wonderful to dive in the Caribbean. But it took me until I was 40 to go to Hawaii before where I got my discovery of Hawaii, and I don't blame you for not leaving. It's a beautiful state. It's and I've only been to Oahu, but so Hilo that's on the Big Island.
Yeah. So Hilo is the second biggest city in Hawaii.
Right.
Beautiful. It still has that kind of like old school feel, very kind of country. And
yes.
It was great I love that I was there for my undergraduate, especially because of the small class sizes, the opportunities to really know your professors, and they're so supportive. And so for me, as I had, taken a while to actually find my place that I wanted to go to undergraduate, I kind of had experienced a lot already, and I was ready to dive into the work and to make connections. And from there, I could really build the projects and the connections that led me through to build my master's work and then into my PhD.
So how I'm sure people kind of want, like, how long from, like, say when you graduated high school to until you actually started at university?
I kind of lost track of time during that time, but it might have been around like 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Of a gap year.
Yeah, of a gap year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people, and part of it was because you weren't really 100%, other than being around the ocean and being in the sea, you weren't exactly sure which, Like you didn't grow up thinking like, well, I'm going to be like Matt Hooper from Jaws and go study, because you grew up in New England, go study Jaws or go study sharks. It was more of an evolution for you. You knew you wanted to be around the ocean.
Well, I did know I had an experience in high school, and actually this connects back with National Geographic, the inspirational power of National Geographic in that. And so this is I knew I wanted in high school. It was like a moment of seeing this incredible oceanographer, deep sea explorer speak at my school, and that was Dr. Robert Ballard.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Found the Titanic and many other amazing discoveries. He spoke at my school. I had the opportunity to sit right in front of him and just see. That's when he was telling us about how much there was to explore of the deep ocean and how his generation couldn't do it all, and it was our generation that needed to go do it. And that really activated me. And I knew at that moment, I was maybe 17 years old. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, that's what I want to do. That was kind of like my big pie in the sky goal. The trouble was I didn't know like how I could get there and what opportunities were really available to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's what I want to do, but what are all there were a lot of, I guess, barriers, and trying to find my way how to meander the maze to get there. And you kind of like, well, I don't know how to get there now, but at least I can dive in the ocean, be close to the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
be close to the community of explorers, and just be in the general area of that. So
Oh, cool.
yeah. Yeah.
That's like, well, I think it's interesting. Like in the last, it's typical of a lot of people. If you had someone that you heard speak or something, or that you got to know that had an inspirational influence on your life, and the direction you went there. So
Yeah.
so you wound up in Hawaii, and so now you're in Hawaii all of a sudden, and it's beautiful tropical island in the Pacific, and you started a school. At this point now, did you know like you wanted to do marine biology, or were you still kind of?
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did know. I guess, so I guess for anyone who's, I had a hesitation only in that, like before delving into the marine science program, my hesitation was that I hadn't thought of myself as a scientist. I thought scientists were, people in a lab, people who are really good at math, people, I came more from an arts and humanities background, which is more, this is also why I did an anthropology degree when I took these as
Mm.
a double major, is because when I took these anthropology classes about how to think like a cultural anthropologist, I was like, this is how my mind already works. And it was the science side that really needed developing. And at first I remember there was a slight hesitation in that, seeing all these, calculus and all these science classes I would have to take, and wow, can I really do this? But there were, trusted people I would ask for advice, and they encouraged me to go for it. And then and really the answer was that it's just in at least for starting school and for getting into the university, it's really all about the connections that you make. And then I had the same kind of hesitation questioning about when I was about to start my PhD, like, can I really be a doctor? And the answer was from a mentor of mine. She said that it's all about tenacity. Like, we can all do this. It's not about, what you're coming with as far as what you have already developed or what comes naturally. It's about your tenacity to follow through. And those things, well, now that looking back, I totally agree on that. So I think that anybody who has, I mean, I've spoken with other people who have a passion about, marine conservation, environmental science, but don't necessarily have that natural affinity to science, or also don't see themselves as a scientist right away. But just to say that, don't let that stop you, because, through the education and the community, you can build those skills, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
I want to
sure.
punctuate that. The skills, I always tell graduate students when I have them come in, it's learn your skills. And, things like sharks and fish. I can, people can teach you about that, but learn the skills is what's going to really help you out. I'm curious, when you started your undergraduate, did you already have in mind you might go to pursue a graduate or even a PhD, or were you just trying to get through an
No,
undergrad?
no, at that point, it was still kind of like the same mindset that I had when I was just diving. I'm like, this is good. Like, I'm in the right place. I'm in the ocean. I'm surrounded by ocean people. This is good. And then with my undergrad, I remember feeling like I'm in the right place. You know what I did have? What was really nice was towards the end, as I was getting close to graduating, there was one class, a traditional Hawaii Marine Resource Management class. It was amazing,
Mm.
and we had the opportunity to develop projects that we could you know, do with comparing some kind of ecology, coral reef ecology in the main Hawaiian Islands and the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. So that was the first time with that class that I got to go to a remote marine protected area up in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. And from that, we were invited to then give a presentation at the Hawaii Conservation Conference. And so as an undergraduate, I had the opportunity to go to a conference and present.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at that conference feeling like, w- I don't know what opportunities are going to come, but I know that as long as I keep going to conferences like this, I'll be in the right place. As long as I'm still around these people talking about these things, then that is the right place for me. So it was kind of more like just being in the right place for that time, and it hadn't yet occurred to me to do even a master's until my it was relationships that I developed with the Nature Conservancy through my kind of capstone projects for the marine science degree, that it just opened up this opportunity to do a bigger project that would be my master's and my PhD. And so I guess when that project presented itself, that's when I knew, I'm like, yeah, this is it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Now you spent the time in Chile
Hmm.
for now. Is that part of your undergraduate program or?
Yeah, that was during undergraduate. So I think there was a part of my undergraduate where I was still very much, wanting to explore the wider world, or just seeing like the wider opportunities that I could participate in that were available through the university. I loved the Spanish language, and I wanted to experience other cultures. I have since I was young. And so I saw that opportunity to do a semester in Chile in Viña del Mar.
Mm-hmm.
And it was wonderful. It was exploring all around South America and making friends and just experiencing another culture. Um, so that has been very helpful, actually, too, now with my travels around the world, is to have
Hmm.
at least one other language background that helps me kind of navigate through
Yeah.
similar different languages. I can kind of understand other Romance languages, but my speaking has kind of not. I haven't kept that up as well.
Yeah,
But
probably in Hawaii, it's not as good a place. Like if you're in California, it would not be a
Yeah,
problem
you'd
at
be.
all.
Yeah.
You'd be doing great.
yeah,
You'd be doing great here.
yeah.
So what other countries would you explore when you're in South America besides
Oh,
Chile?
we would go to Argentina a bunch. We'd go
Oh,
back and forth.
Was it during your
To
undergrad? I got to go to New Brunswick in my undergrad. That's not tropical at
oh.
all. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, well, we discovered the bus system in South America, and we just take these long bus rides
Oh,
sometimes,
cool.
all up and down the Chile coast, so all up to Bolivia and Peru and
oh.
um, yeah, Argentina. I think those were the main ones, but some of it, like we found a place that we like the Atacama Desert, and we just keep going there, and
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Oh,
yeah.
nice. How long were you there? Just a semester, or did you stay longer?
That was one semester of the course. I stayed a little bit extra because we had the opportunity to do some backcountry hiking in
Okay.
Patagonia. So
Okay. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While you're there, you might as well.
Might as well. Yeah. Oh,
So this was an option in your program. Like you could do like a semester away. It's such a. Do you find like this is did a lot of other students in your program take advantage of this, like to do this type of thing, or was this something that you decided to do maybe with a couple of friends or even just on your own? Because I don't hear people going on these types of semesters away as much as I thought people would. I guess it's expensive too, I'm sure, but still.
Yeah, well, at that point, I was just like, as far as the expensive, I was just I was,
Yeah.
as a student, you're borrowing money anyway. So I was
Yeah.
like, I might as well borrow and
what
go.
the hell?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Why
was
not
like-
just add on to it because you gotta
Yeah.
live your experience. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you're right. No, there was, especially within the marine science program, there certainly
Yeah.
wasn't anybody else. I took a lot of extra classes. During my undergrad, I would go to the registrar's office and have them sign off to allow me to take all these, to like overload myself by a lot, which you
Right.
need sign off. And they're like,
Right.
are you trying to graduate fast? I'm like, no, I already have all my credits. I'm just really
I want to
interested in
learn.
all these classes are available. So
Yeah.
this is what happens when you are away from school for a while, then you really appreciate what these professors are offering by
For
giving
sure.
you a lecture
Yeah.
and like giving you a
Yeah.
curriculum. So
Yeah, you're not just going through the motions anymore.
Right.
You're actually you
Yeah.
really want to go back and learn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's an important lesson that hear people listen, young people listening, that the time you took off really benefited you later on when you went back to school because you really appreciated it, and then taking a lot of the different courses. And so, when you were doing your undergraduate, did you were you doing any diving instructing, or were you doing any?
Oh yeah, I did both.
Oh, you did.
I started off doing diving and instructing for the other students because I was like, hey, I'm an instructor who wants to learn,
Nice.
and it was really fun. I got to run it through the university, and I'd have these big classes, and I wasn't trying to make money off of it. I
Right.
just wanted to do it so we could have all these people, and it was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work, and it was also really
On top of
stress.
everything.
It was also very kind of stressful because all of a sudden I'm like responsible for everyone's safety and everything. And so what happened with that is the first time I had some friends who were like, hey, we're these research divers on this project. Do you want to join? And I remember going on the first research dive with my two friends, and it was just the three of us, and we were just out diving, doing our thing. And I thought, this is better. And so I have only ever done research diving since then. So I really like
course.
research diving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you able to work much diving into your thesis project at all?
Yeah, it was the bulk of it was diving. We did
Okay.
a 5-year predator removal experiment on patch reefs on the Kona coast of Hawaii. So the beautiful Kona side. And so the question for that were there's these groupers that had been introduced in the 50s that have, in order to be a food fish, but unfortunately they have ciguatera, which is a toxin, and
Yeah.
so people don't eat them and they don't like them. And so the question was, what are the impact of this introduced species? And so in a collaboration with the Nature Conservancy, we did a 5-year predator removal experiment on these patch reefs where, with local fishermen who were involved, we fished down one reef and then monitored the reef over a period of the next 4 years to see, what were the impacts on the native fish assemblage. So it was a management question that the community was interested in as well, and it had me, in the water regularly, and so I got to dive on that for my thesis, and also had I was kind of like the fish diver that people would call if they needed help with fish diving. So that was like the Division of Aquatic Resources. I got to
Nice.
work with them, and then through that, I guess my name was kind of given over to NOAA, who needed fish divers for their Pacific-wide campaigns, monitoring reefs throughout the Pacific. So spending months at sea
Yeah.
diving with NOAA. So that's when I really
That's awesome.
fell in love with just being out being with
Yeah.
a community of awesome scientist out on a ship, just diving every day in the water every day.
It just goes to show, I think, Dave, you mentioned this earlier about having that one skill. That one skill allowed you to network, not only to participate in all these things, but allowed you to participate in the research, but also network with all the people who were working. Like you mentioned, like I got to meet all these really cool scientists and doing all that work. That must have helped you later on in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing about the University of Hawaii Hilo, that small, relatively small college, and close connection with the professors there. They have this course called Quest, Quantitative Underwater Ecological Surveying Techniques,
Oh, cool.
where you go and you can't, it's like, again, you're getting school credit. You go and you camp out on the beach on the Kona side for, I think it's like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and you through it you become a scientific diver. You get that
Yeah.
certification, and you learn all the fish counts and the benthic counts, all the different techniques you would use. You even learn, like, that was kind of actually my first real introduction to statistics and entering data and analyzing it all in the field, presenting it. So it was a really amazing experience, like class in the
Yeah.
field, that you come out with your scientific diver, and then with that certification, that's what really opened up
Yeah.
all those opportunities with
Wow.
DAR, with different projects,
That's
with
amazing.
NOAA.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
that's an amazing. So when when you were at Hilo, you because of all this stuff, is that kind of led you to move over to the Oahu for your PhD work
Yeah,
over there?
yeah. So Hilo was they offer the master's degree through is the highest you could go, and so
Yeah.
in order to go further, I needed to move over to Oahu. So I was a little bit anxious at first about moving from the country to the big city, but I actually love it here. So
Oh, okay.
it's been great. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So now, when you got over there, how did this whole thing come about? Like with, okay, you're a PhD student. You seem like you're able to get on with NOAA and do a lot of things because of your diving skills. How did the whole thing with National Geographic come up?
So this came up so my advisor, Alan Friedlander, was a chief scientist for the National Geographic Pristine Seas expeditions at the time. So my advisor was going out on all of these adventures. He was, he was out at sea going to all these amazing places, and we would see him every once in a while. And when he came back with a kind of a question for me, in that the National Geographic was starting to use these deep sea cameras more. They had just developed, well, the first iterations were developed in 2009. They had just recently made them smaller and more usable, so they were using more. And he was coming back with these hard drives full of deep sea data that he didn't have time to deal with. And so he handed me these hard drives and said, "Here, can you figure this out?" And so that was kind of like a side project for me. That was my introduction to the deep sea, was going through this video footage and being like, what's going on in here? Actually, I remember going into his office when we first started talking about, me taking on that work and the project. And we were looking at the hard drives, and what we were looking at was the Clipperton footage of the East Pacific ghost shark, that aggregation that you and I ended up, because you're the one who was like, "Hey, this is kind of cool. We should write a paper on this." But I remember that was the first thing I saw looking at the hard drive, was just like, what is going on here? What are these things? And like, so it kind of drew me in.
It's fun and interesting you telling that story, because so many times people like yourself come into possession of stuff like that, and where someone like me would love to see something like that, and they're just, fortunately for you and I, we kind of crossed paths, and it was like, "Hey, what's this stuff here?" And like, "Oh, geez, that's really awesome."
Yeah.
Otherwise it just sits and nothing ever happens with it.
Yeah. Otherwise, I would, if I couldn't have asked you and have that insight, otherwise it'd be like, "Oh no, like this is terrible. I can't figure this out. I don't know what it is," and it will just remain in obscurity and just be like, "I'm terrible at this," at identifying things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that was so you're going through all of this stuff here. It at what point did you um, develop any interest, or was it just part of the job you're doing as far as sharks and ghost sharks and rays? Is there any point like it's like, wow, these are kind of cool, the kind of the Cadillac of fishes out here, the sharks?
Yeah, I guess there's
Cadillac of
the
fishes. I love it.
yeah, that's a great description. And that there's kind of two sides to the story, I guess, based on my previous experience of diving a lot and just being in the water. I've had the most experience and the most uh, connection to sharks from being in the water, from diving, especially the hammerhead sharks.
Hmm.
I was for a period of time, actually in the middle of my undergrad, I went for a summer job working on this on a liveaboard dive boat off of Kona, Hawaii. It turned out to be a year and a half because I was having such a good time. But then I did go back to school once I felt ready. But during that time, there was this one dive site that we would go to just about every week, and what I found was that so the how we would hook up to the mooring is we'd send a diver in and they'd go down to the mooring and we'd send a line down. The diver would hook up the mooring. And for our morning sites, this was very early in the morning. And at this one particular site, when I'd go down there, there would be one hammerhead cruising by. And I would see that hammerhead every time I was there. I would come up and I would tell everybody, there's a hammerhead. It's so exciting. You guys are going to see this hammerhead. And they'd get all excited, but nobody else would see it. So after a while, I learned not to tell them so that they wouldn't be disappointed. But I still insisted that I would be the one to go down and hook up at that particular site. So then it just became like my kind of like a secret
Okay.
of this one hammerhead that I would see every time. So that was like my first like really personal connection to an ocean animal. And then I also had the experience of diving again through working for that liveaboard dive boat company. We could dive on any of the boats in the world for free during our time off. And so I went to the Galapagos and to Cocos Island, and there you can just dive with the schools of hundreds and hundreds of hammerhead sharks. So those sharks really had an impact on me in that I just felt they're just awesome. So I loved sharks, through my experience in the water. But it's funny that you ask about, through my work and when did I realize that that the sharks are the Cadillac of the fishes, and it's because of the cameras that we use, these deep sea cameras that the National Geographic Exploration Technology Lab developed, that we send down to the bottom. They do benthic surveys, stationary benthic surveys of the deep sea floor for biodiversity, um, megafauna. So, but they're baited, and so they attract the predators, the scavengers that come in. And so after years of doing this, I've just noticed that like every single exciting discovery, that every single exciting observation we've made it's been sharks. Like sharks are the star of the show. They're the big excitement. That's what it lights me up. It's what everybody gets excited about. So that's really kind of turned my attention to just sharks in general, and especially the deep sea sharks. Um,
Hmm.
and I guess the other part of that is, when we would have these observations, and so for example, like the Pacific sleeper shark in Palau with low clawsons,
Hmm.
again, that was sort of like when it first happened, we saw this shark and we're like, wait, what? Why is this? Why is this here? This doesn't make any sense. And at first, you just think like, oh, I'm really bad at IDing things. But then being able to ask you, Dave, hey, what do you think? And then I remember your response. It wasn't just the data, like, oh, it's a range extension. It was, hey, this is, it's likely a range extension, but you also had a story behind it, that you had worked with the Pacific sleeper shark in your career, and it
Yep.
had specific meaning to you. And I remember just feeling like, and it's kind of similar like that through all the shark species that we see in their observations, is they all kind of like have a significance and a meaning, and they have their own story. And so when a shark shows up, I like to kind of, that just happens to pass by our camera, and then I get to learn about that shark, its life history, what's going on. So they just teach me so much, and I really like that.
I got to ask you, I haven't really talked to you about this, but like, how did on this Pacific sleeper shark from Palau, how did you happen to get to know Lo Clausen's there, who was?
Oh yeah. So Lo, that was the first year that we ran the deep sea collaboration opportunities through the Exploration Technology Lab. So that represented kind of a shift in focus where prior the society and the lab with the deep sea work, we were kind of, doing different collaborations. It was sort of ad hoc in terms of who had access to the cameras, and particularly their Pristine Seas was the group that got to use the cameras the most. That was the data that we worked with the most. So with the deep sea collaboration opportunity, the idea was to have a way for explorers, so National Geographic explorers are grantees that the society supports with funding. So once they get a grant or an award for their work in science exploration, storytelling, anything along those lines to illuminate and protect the wonder of the world. So that's the global network of National Geographic explorers. And the idea is within that explorer community is to invest in these incredible people by giving them access to tools and technologies to be able to better do their work. And so with the deep sea collaboration opportunity, that was an opportunity through funding and then also hands-on support so that I go out in the field with them to help deploy the cameras. That's the idea of the deep sea collaboration opportunity to equip them with these tools. And so Lo was she was in the first cohort, so she was the second person that I went out with, and we had that crazy experience. I was like, what am I getting into?
I got to because this is actually kind of an interesting story how collaborations happens, because you and I had collaborated before, and then when you guys had this sleeper shark, I didn't know Lo at all. And it turned out that she's actually South African, and she did her PhD the same university I did at Rhodes University in Grahamstown. Where, of course, there's let's say a bit of an age difference when I finished versus when she finished. But anyway, you guys reached out to me at the time, and I didn't know her as I mentioned. And then we published this paper on the Pacific sleeper shark, and then I can't remember. It was like maybe 10, 12 months later, maybe up to I don't know, maybe it was even quite a year later, she wrote me that she had some more interesting rays and sharks that she was seeing at the fish markets. And I'm thinking like she's still in Palau. And she mentioned like, oh no, I'm actually in Timor-Leste. And I'm like, oh really? What are you doing in Timor-Leste? And she said she basically was now working for World Fish. Well, the brief story is that one thing led to another, and I ended up going to Timor-Leste last year. We did a podcast on it and hooked up with Lo, had an amazing experience, and now we're developing a collaboration to do some more, to study the sharks and rays there. And nobody's ever studied sharks and rays in Timor-Leste before. And then, Jonathan, you went there a few months after I was there and did a deep drop with the cameras and stuff, and we ended up identifying a shark, was called the painted swell shark, that was only known from like, Bali and Lombok, which is like 1,500 miles away. And it's like one of the first in situ record of this thing, and first time one had been confirmed in like, a decade or more. So anyway, it turned into a whole really cool project. We got a paper out of it, a little note out of it. And, but just, I just mentioned to people listening, that's how collaborations work sometimes. It's,
Yeah, there we were again. So then the next time Lo and I were together again, we were like, Dave, can you help us out? Because I remember when I'll go through the footage at the end of the day just quickly to see if everything's, working right and whatever. And I saw this. I didn't know what it was. I just knew I'd never seen it before. And I sent the little screenshot to Lo, and she had sent it off to you. And so it's like, well, no wonder I'd never seen it before. Nobody's ever seen it before.
that was the first time anybody had gotten a video of this shark in situ. And it was like 580 meters or so. And the only records of it are, like I said, that was described from Bali and Lombok in Indonesia. And it's like, I can't remember if 1,500 miles or 1,500 kilometers, but it was quite a lengthy extension, and nobody had ever filmed one. They only had been seen in fish markets dead. So it turned on a whole number of fronts. It turned into quite an exciting discovery for us and stuff. And so it was just one more it was just a really interesting thing. And just for people listening, Lo, she actually works on seahorse, and it was her specialty, so she didn't even work on sharks at all. But she's learning now. I can.
Yeah, and the same thing. It's just like, well, these sharks keep showing up, and they're so exciting, and it's so nice to share, and we love it. And that's what I love about the deep sea cameras and the deep sea collaboration opportunity, is that it just opens up those avenues for people who are interested and willing to. I mean, you really have to persist. I have to give credit to Lo. Both of those expeditions in Palau and in Timor were not easy. They were one of the most difficult, or some of the most difficult, where we're just being like, oh, not again, all these things, and things are falling apart, but you just keep going and persist, and then that magic happens. So I love that happens with
I haven't been to Palau, but Timor, I could see that being a tough area to work in. Going out there, and Andrew and I did a podcast last fall. I talked to quite a bit about Timor, just as a fascinating place, but it was definitely not an easy place to work in, and I can't imagine you guys are out at sea putting down those drop cams. I have to ask you, did you get a chance to do any diving there?
We did a little bit of snorkeling while we were waiting for the cameras. We just kind of get in the water and go check out the reefs. That was beautiful. That was the best time. It sits
right just so people know, if you're probably looking at a map to find Timor-Leste, it used to be called East Timor, but it sits right on the edge of the Coral Triangle. And it's just, when I was there, I didn't get a chance to dive, but I saw a lot of the videos and photos that people had taken there, and I'd go back just to go diving there, just to spend a week diving. It was like, a lot of the places look just like picture postcards of the place there. So, and so how did you happen? So Timor, is it because you knew Lo was there? Is how you ended up going, or?
Yeah, we have, with the deep sea collaboration opportunity, we open the applications once a year, and then the explorers will apply, and so we'll select from those applicants the cohort for that year. And so it's really, it's kind of driven by whoever applies and where they are, where they want to do the work, and then we select those. So so that's how we got out to Timor.
Okay. And now, so you've been out now you've been to Timor and stuff. So every year and you're part of the review team that just looks through those things. So when you decide where you want to go, is it based on, well, this is an interesting area, it has a lot of scientific merit, or is it like, hey, I really like to go there, this is kind of cool place?
It really has a lot to do with feasibility. Even if there is some place that's really cool that I would like to go, the kind of the feasibility, we are limited in that it's a 1 week collaboration period, and which is short for the amount that we could do, and especially if, as things happen like weather and things, you kind of lose days here and there. And so the feasibility of what can we do within a week. We also like to distribute amongst different applicants, and we couldn't resist going with Lo twice, just because she's awesome.
Yeah.
Because that was it's easy to have a successful expedition with her, but try to distribute among regions, among explorers. We try to kind of touch on all those bases, I guess. But probably the interesting place that I want to go to is the least of the criteria.
The more, so you kind of got into this because of your professor. Was Alan
Friedlander.
So he was doing this. This was kind of your entryway into get into doing this stuff with National Geographic.
Yeah, so I started as a kind of a research assistant with Pristine Seas. It was kind of more general as just assistance with the science in general. But he really wanted me, and I just loved, my passion was the deep sea cameras. And so through that, like real focus, I kind of uh, was just dove into it more as part of the exploration technology lab at a point where the cameras were getting it. At that point, when I was looking at the video footage, the cameras were also getting to a point where they could be not just deployed by the engineers themselves, but they were kind of more mature and ready to be able to train people on the cameras to use the cameras without the engineers actually being there. They're still a bit tricky, but we've kind of like streamlined the process a lot, and so now they're at a point where not only I can use them, but I can bring them and have other explorers use them as well. So that's been
Very
kind of my
nice.
journey with the cameras, is taking them from at a point when they're at this like technological readiness or maturity to be able to be used more integrated into more of the marine science world and contribute to global marine science data.
Did you have any special training in like? I mean, were you a photographer just normal, ordinarily, or just any special skills for that, or you just learn on the job?
No, I learned on the job. I didn't have any training with like cameras. I don't really use them myself personally. I like doing drawings. I like pictures. I like
Hmm.
images, but I like to do the drawings
Hmm.
of those myself. So yeah, I was on the job learning and yeah, learning as I go. But I do think that my background in the shallow coral reef ecology and being out at sea a lot with NOAA and with DAR, and then also my experience just diving and being on boats has kind of really prepared me for kind of all those unexpected, all the kind of that creativity you need in the field to deal with issues and to, it's
But
creativity really.
how did you mentioned? I know we mentioned that a couple times, but talk about your artistic uh, background. Is that
Oh
just?
yeah. So
Um, yeah, go ahead.
I guess I just grew up drawing and like everything I learned through school I would draw, and it was just a part of me learning and incorporating my experience, and something I loved, and just I kind of the drawing. So this is the other reason why I love National Geographic so much, is because I felt like my drawing and the artistic side, that kind of right brain, I really put on hold while I pursued the science side. And I really wanted to just like develop that left brain logical and develop those skills that I thought needed more work really to
Hmm.
be a scientist and to think that way. So like super logically and linearly. Um, but and so through my, I guess especially PhD, I put that drawing on hold to be a scientist and to like prove myself as a scientist. And then once I finished my PhD, that's when I really got really involved with National Geographic and going to their headquarters and being a part of their convenings and leadership workshops. And I found that the artistic side, and especially the melding of the two sides of the brain and just thinking kind of creatively alongside the logic and the science, was actually something that is really celebrated and welcomed. And so I
Hmm.
felt encouraged to bring up that part of myself again. And so now within that community of National Geographic, I feel like my artistic side is like celebrated and supported. And so
Yeah.
now it's a part. And it was actually through this one. There was this one expedition in particular where I really got to meld those two, which is kind of um, I have now brought through as I journey throughout the world now on all these different expeditions. But there was one in particular with it was a collaboration between Lindblad, Charles Darwin Foundation, and the Galapagos. And actually, Dave, we published a paper from this one too.
Hmm.
Um, the 6 gill and the 7 gill shark range extensions. But on that one, the MIT, some students and came out from MIT with Katie Croft Bell, and it was on that expedition where I was like, we're going to be on this boat, this beautiful boat, for a month, and what if I brought, you know, journal kits for everybody? So like drawing, books, notebooks, and colored pencils, and kind of like a guidebook, and everybody does a journal. And it got me to really think about how to incorporate art and science in the field on expedition, and just doing kind of bringing the artistic side, not just collecting data, but also kind of using more of our senses and getting kind of more of the personal context and all the parts of the experience that are kind of missing if you only come back with the data. So that was really nice to kind of bring that to that expedition. And then I've been using that journal guide ever since as I go. And I must say that most, like Timor-Leste, a lot of these places are really difficult. It's not a place to like sit and draw. I've learned that. And so now it's
watch the crocs.
Watch for the crocodiles.
I know. Or like not be like recover from food poisoning. It's like I think I had food poisoning most of the time I was there.
Oh no.
Yeah, but now it's once I get back home, I'll do a drawing, and it really helps to kind of just integrate that whole experience. And then I have like a picture, and it's just some nice context, and it's just something I like to do. And I'm really happy that it's a part of my work as well.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
That's really neat. That's really neat. So how many of these expeditions do you do a year?
So the first year we started 2021 was still COVID, and that's the year that we started about midway through the year, and we did 2 in that year. So from, I guess we started in September, we did September and December that year. So 2022 was our first full year of doing it, and we did 6. Plus an extra, plus that Lindblad one. So we did 8 expeditions that year.
Wow.
And so that was a learning experience where we've like toned it down a little bit to be more manageable. So now we do 5 of these deep sea collaboration opportunities a year, plus maybe another special collaboration opportunity with another project or something like that. So that's a bit more manageable.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's got to just know what it takes to get one of these expeditions together. It's just, you're doing like 7 or 8 or something a year. It's like, I don't know where you'd find the time to
well,
do
you know
something.
what I found myself is there were some where I would just spend like 5 nights in a row sleeping on airplanes, and to get from one expedition to another, one remote place to another, I had to make 10 flights without any delays, and I don't know how that happened, because now I would never 10 flights in a row with no major delays. We did have some, but you know how sometimes the delays are like, okay, days later you can get there. There was no way, because it was like, if the ship leaves, the ship leaves. So there was no wiggle room. Right. And so that's something that happened on the first year. So we try to also, space them out a little bit. There's a couple times where Hawaii it's a great place to recover, but it's also hard to get to. So,
That's
so
true.
I would have like 2 days at home, which was just, it was very, I guess, disorienting in some way. And like 5 nights sleeping on an airplane, 1 is enough, and 5 is a lot.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, I've done that. It doesn't get any easier as you get older and you're just a kid. So it's just like, oh man, yeah. I used to be the time to get some work done or something, like on the plane or.
I thought so too.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No, it's like I just put on my headphones and turn off all the electronics and just sleep for a bit.
Yeah. I have my hoodie, and I just put the hood down and just go into my, some deep meditation.
It's funny when you're on those flights too, you can see people like that, and you're just, I don't know what you're doing, but I sort of get the, like, whatever it is, it's something you're just going from one job to the next, and this is your sort of
Yeah.
downtime, the whatever the flight is on that trip and stuff. So,
Yeah.
well, Jonathan, this has been an amazing talk to talk with you today, and we really appreciate you coming on. We'll definitely want to have you come back and talk about some of your future expeditions. But what advice would you have for, like, some young person starting out that's like, I want to go work for National Geographic too?
Oh, yes. Well, for National Geographic, a great entry point is keep an eye on the grants portal on the National Geographic website. They're always updating what RFPs, what grant, what applicants they're looking for. So look at those opportunities there to get involved and to become a National Geographic through one of those programs or whatever opportunity comes up there. Um, I think in general, too, just like following if you have kind of like a North Star idea, if you want to be in ocean exploration, as you've seen, I guess, through my story and through many others on the podcast, that it can be very a winding road. And I think I would say be persistent yet flexible. Persistent in that you're kind of always bringing it back to what is, your passion and your mission, like what is personally driving you, what that love or your mission, what do you want to accomplish? And also flexible in that, like, some parts of your life might be, some chapters might be about honing one particular skill or, just gaining experience or connection. So it might look very different as you move through the different phases of your life, but always bringing it back to those core values and that core mission.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that takes persistence yet flexibility. I know it's an oxymoron, but it's like that dynamic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A dynamic picture.
Dynamic. Yeah. Yeah. And just quickly, where are you off to next now?
So on Sunday, or not this Sunday, next Sunday, I go to Brazil, to the region of Bahia. So I'm excited to go there. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
Jeez. Yeah. Oh, that's very nice. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And we're definitely going to have you back, talk about some of your other adventures and your travels going forward, and keep us posted too. If you have anything really super cool coming up, let us know too. We'll have you come on and do a bonus episode and share some more of your journey. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful to speak with you.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot. Cool.
Thank you, Jonatha, for joining us on today's episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. It was great to have you on. Dave, look, deep sea research, that's kind of your bag as well. You found a lot of sharks in deep sea, using technology for exploration. What did you think of all this?
Oh, it was great. I mean, I knew her a little bit, but she has had quite the career so far. Just even before she really got locked into her present position, her career,
Right.
just kind of coming out from New England to the West Coast to Mexico she was in Chile, and just then sailing to Hawaii, and just decided, like, I like it here, and staying. And it's just sort of it's a great story. And some of the stuff I knew a little bit about her, and some of it I didn't know.
Right.
And it was just a fascinating career trajectory for her. And then she wound up doing sharks, of all things, in her career here. And
who knew?
Yeah,
right?
who knew? It's like I think one thing, like, you pick up, listen to the episode, is that she was here. And this is kind of where I've had a number of collaborators like this over the years, and she's like one of the latest ones. Is that she's just seeing all these weird and wonderful sharks and rays in the deep sea, and she wants to know what they are. And then through mutual connections, her and I got connected, and it's been a great collaboration. Just being able to identify some of the species he's seeing, and a lot of them are just new records. We talked a little bit about this one that just came out on this painted swell shark we found in Timor-Leste. As you remember, I was there last year, and she was there a couple months after I was there, working with Lo Claussens and her crew. And they saw the shark, and they said, "Hey, Dave, what is this?" And I go, "Oh my goodness, it's a painted swell shark. We haven't seen one of the. We've never seen one in situ like that swimming."
Right.
And we got a publication out of it. It's being featured in National Geographic now as we speak. and we'll have a more peer-reviewed paper coming out on it very soon.
I
So
love it.
it's great. It's just the kind of collaboration. It's kind of why I go into the field. Just meet a wonderful array of people from all kinds of backgrounds.
That's what I love about it too. It's such a an important part of science is that collaboration, keeping in touch, building up those relationships with, other researchers and other scientists who explore just as much as you do. And because you never know what you're going to find, you never know what you're going to be able to assist in. And Dave, you've been part of that a number of times for a number of different people to assist in identifying sharks, and especially sharks that haven't been seen in a long time. And I think that's great. It's a testament to scientists and how we all collaborate and give each other credit for it. And I think that's really important. So always nice to see that. And it was always nice to have, to meet Jonatha and have her on the podcast to, share it with you guys, the audience, to understand what people are doing in different spots around the world. This one in the Hawaiian Islands, which was wonderful to be able to hear all the stuff that's going on in there. So,
Yep.
thank you, Jonatha. We're going to put all her links that she shares with us so that you can get a hold of her and you can get to know her a little better. And then, of course, Dave, if people want to get a hold of you, how would they do so?
Lost Shark Guy on Instagram and my YouTube channel, Lost Shark Guy. Check out the series, Searching for Lost Sharks, Extinct or Alive. And hit us up, leave a message and stuff. Also, as Andrew will say on the Beyond Jaws, love to hear from you, hear any comments and feedback. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Our YouTube channel, Beyond Jaws Pod, and Instagram, Beyond Jaws Pod. Check us out. Love to hear it. And thank you so much for listening to us. I want to thank Jonatha for joining us. Dave, thank you again. It's always fun to co-host with you. And of course, everybody listening, but thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to talking to you next time here on the Beyond Jaws podcast from Dave and I. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time, and happy conservation.